What is the biggest financial money pit people fall into, preventing them becoming financially prosperous when they get older? Increasing their standard of living every time they get a raise. Dodge Chargers on 14.99% APR. Not start saving for retirement early. People wake up at age 50 and realize they haven't saved a nickel. Marriage, kids, divorce, repeat. Just having no knowledge of a dollar. I got $100,000 at 18 from a car accident. Parents urged me to buy a new car. Already bad advice. There was no force that could have stopped me from spending on dumbass shit. Gone within 6 months. Credit card debt. The interest is so high. What has been your biggest, I really thought I knew this person, moment? A guy the first was kinda irregularly working with for 2 to 3 years as a student. We'd meet once a week in a cafe to talk through some project-related issues. Was one day wanted by Interpol. Turned out he invited a random language teacher to his flat and decapitated her. He might have been an asshole. But there's a difference between an asshole and a murderer. I had a friend of 18 years overdose on heroin. None of us knew he did drugs. He didn't even smoke cigarettes. It was beyond shocking. Dude I went to high school with and hung out with in our little clique. He was arrested driving down to Daytona to meet an underage girl with tape and knives in his trunk. When my wife cheated on me. Sounds really stereotypical, but she was the last person on earth I would have thought would do something like that. A girl I worked with a few years ago ended up being one of those creepy catfishers. She initiated and continued an online relationship with one of her best friends. Even made up other ancillary accounts for all the other made-up friends and family. She was such a lovely girl too. Really witty and fun to work with. I was with my partner for 15 years. We were high school sweethearts. One day out of nowhere he started this fight with me. A fight big enough to make him suggest to stay at a friend's house for a night to cool off. The fight was over me buying a male coworker gummy bears. The night turned into a week. He blocked my phone and I was unable to reach him. He came back in the middle of the night to grab things and told me he wanted to break up. I was so confused and felt blindsided. I ended up finding out he was in a 10-year relationship with a girl he met on like a roleplay Discord server. He was living a double life. When I would go to sleep at night, he would be on the phone with her. He flew out to get engaged to her the week he blocked me. The kicker is she was married when they got engaged. This was a year ago. She is still married and my ex is still in a relationship with her. Edited to add. Asterisk I did speak to the husband over the phone. He lives in Texas and I'm in Pennsylvania. He asked me to send proof. I sent him texts and screenshots. 6 months after I talked to him, he caught my ex in his house via cameras in his garage when he was out of town. This was July and he is still living with her and married. They originally met on Gaia Online and then their relationship moved to Discord. What is something you cannot believe modern technology hasn't fixed yet? Why isn't there a process to re-enamel teeth? Why my new boxer shorts are packaged in a Ziploc bag but cereals are not? I wear a hearing aid. If you get a hearing aid wet, it quits working. If you sweat into a hearing aid, wax builds up and makes the hearing aid not work. If I take a shower, I have to wait at least 30 minutes for my ear canal to dry before being able to hear, without potentially breaking my hearing aid. You'd have thought that science could make a waterproof hearing aid. And who knows? There might possibly be one out there, but I can only afford the cheapest models, which are still like $3,000. I just want to be able to do something that makes me sweat but also be able to hear at the same time. Dustpans that don't leave a coke line of dirt. Tooth decay. Tinnitus, sad face. What's the simplest skill that you've seen someone refuse to learn? I was showing my elderly neighbor how to cut and paste on her laptop and she was like, "No, this is too complicated." Quote, "It always baffles me how many people who, essentially, spend their entire life using Excel refuse to spend any time actually learning how to use Excel." General technology knowledge. Basic phone and computer tasks. I worked for a little while at a phone store and it always got under my skin how people refused to listen to even the simplest explanations on basic functions. I get it. It's new and scary. But if you would only listen to this 3-step process, it will solve most of the problems you are bringing to me. Listening. It's surprising how many people just wait for the other person to stop talking. Also surprising how many others don't even wait that long. Was working at a pizza place years ago and they hired a 16-year-old kid. I was making pizzas while he was being trained. At one point the manager asked the kid to sweep up the dining room. Then went into the office. The manager came out 10 minutes later and all the kid had been doing was moving trash around with the broom, not sweeping it into a pile or picking it up. The manager asked if he had ever held a broom before and the kid said no. The manager then tried teaching him how to sweep and after the kid spent a minute watching the manager clean with a very stupid look on his face. The kid, he said, "It's too hard, I quit," and walked out. It's too hard. Sweeping the floor. Just Googling things. I feel like most people would get their problems solved if they just Googled their issue. Yes, there might be issues with this sometimes. But it's a skill like everything else. What's the most hauntingly beautiful song you've ever heard? The theme music in the movie Arrival. It's played a lot in the movie. And it's so haunting. Pulls at the heartstrings for sure. The Night We Met, Lord Huron. The main score from Schindler's List. John Williams really knows how to wake up the emotions in those who watch films he's scored. Most of his scores are hauntingly beautiful. Debussy's Clair de Lune. It makes me teary-eyed every time. Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven. Blower's Daughter by Damien Rice is a good one. What is your favorite example of a massive corporate failure? Sears was practically built on catalog sales and shipping items to customers. They had the infrastructure in place yet somehow missed out on internet shopping. Target's expansion to Canada was a disaster. They spent billions purchasing existing Zellers, Canadian department store locations from Hudson's Bay Company, HBC. Then they spent hundreds of millions more renovating them. They leased more locations to open stores. 133 in total. Due to a variety of issues, mainly distribution problems, they tanked. Target Canada declared bankruptcy and had to pay more millions to get out of leases and sell their owned real estate. This all happened in about 5 years. My favorite part of the story is the HBC took some of the proceeds from the sale of Zellers and bought Saks Fifth Avenue with it. They're recently begun reopening Zellers. Probably BlackBerry. They're an interesting case study in a company being sniped off of what 10 years ago had been an undisputed market-leading position by failing to account for changing technology. I worked for Kodak, Qualex, and I will never forget the meeting we had talking about 35mm film. A person said he's noticing an influx of people looking to print digital photos. This was a senior vice president of Kodak saying, and I quote, "This whole digital thing is just a fad. It will blow over soon." Lenovo shipping laptops loaded with the Superfish malware. https www.forbes.com/sites/thomasbrewster/2015/02/19/superfish-need-to-no/ shish equals 25A8A4133877. https www.forbes.com/sites/thomasbrewster/2015/02/19/superfish-need-to-no/ shish equals 25A8A4133877. Circuit City cutting costs by firing their most experienced salespeople. The chain was bankrupt in less than 2 years. Subscribe, my brothers.